will focus on developing mindfulness, which lead for a positive classroom climate and teachers-parents trust relationship. Well, it's a big aim. I hope I will be able to make it. And children and youth antisocial behavior is major concern among educators, teachers, and parents all over the world. There are a number of factors within the home, the community, and school's environment that are related to antisocial behavior. The following global educational program, which I would like to present here, will examine ways to prevent antisocial behavior by developing positive classroom climate, which emphasize on classroom management as a moral activity. The next one. Sorry. Morality refers to norms about right and wrong, human conduct that are so widely shared that they form a stable, although usually incomplete, social consensus. Thinking about the design and formation of morality, intrinsic conscience, and life's value, researchers and educators following self-determination theory and indicate three significant needs: sense of autonomy, competence, and relatedness. Therefore, significant adults, and I'm talking about the parents and the teachers, involved in being model of an internal value, to supporting children's self-examination of their own value and goals, and finally, at last, helping children to develop self-awareness and be able to cope with confusion, uncertainty, and peer pressure. Therefore, our global course, Pre-Service Teachers, will address three different perspectives of moral development, and those will be the model of the course. On the intrapersonal perspective, on the interpersonal perspective, and on the educational perspective. On the I'm sorry. Okay. Now go back to the. Okay, leave it like that. It's okay. Leave it. Thank you. On the interpersonal perspective, I would like to invite our students, pre-service teachers, to. I would like to give them the opportunity for self-reflection, and I will give some of the examples later. I would like them to examine their own ethical and moral dilemmas. On the interpersonal perspective, I would like our pre-service teachers to be invited to examine moral principles in the context of different cultural and different genders. And finally, on the educational perspective, it will be the opportunity for our pre-service teachers to expose to children's and adolescents' moral dilemmas and the importance and the benefit of discussing moral dilemmas in classroom. In addition, our pre-service teachers will be introduced to various teachers' response that help or restrict coping with moral dilemmas in class. Furthermore, we'll discuss ways to invite parents for a dialogue that facilitates the management of children's moral development. And if I want to be more clear, I hope this model might be more clear. I would like to start with the pre-service teachers' self-awareness. That's why I'm talking about mindfulness and how we develop the aware of themselves. And then the second step will be to promote the understanding of the others. That will be in the context of different cultures and different genders. And if they understand the other, hopefully the third step will be more respecting the students' diversity and creating positive classroom climate. Now, I hope now I'm more clear in saying. Okay, so how can we do that? How can we do that together in partnership? I would like to present an example of collaboration work on the interpersonal and intrapersonal perspective. And I will try to make it clear and see if we can work together. I'm sure we can do it, but how can we do it? So this example I would like to share with you. I choose to work on the Heinz dilemma, but we can choose whatever we want, which dilemma we want to work on. The students, and I'm talking about the pre-service teachers, in US and in Israel will refer to a moral dilemma which will be presented on the website. And as you can see, I choose the Heinz dilemma. I thought that it's very familiar with everybody, so I just choose it. And the question will be, what we are more interesting is the explanation of the students for the question why or why not, but to explain their answer. Each of the students will write his answer to the dilemma, and next to each answer the student will mark US or Israel and female or male. And the second step will be interpersonal perspective. All the students in the US and Israel are invited to read all the answers and try to indicate the similarity and differences in the responses of the US and Israeli students and the similarity and differences in the response of the females and the male, of course, in US and Israel together. And I think we expect to find differences according to cultural context and gender differences. Then the third step will be according to Kolber's stage of moral judgment. Each of the students will examine his own stage of moral judgment, and that will be the student's intrapersonal inquiry. And the students in each country or in each university will try to conclude at what stage are the female and the male in this sample. So according to my experience, and I work with the students in Israel, the student will find differences between female and male's answer. And the next question will be, what are the causes of gender differences in moral judgment? And if we found also differences between the cultural differences, then we should ask what are the causes for the cultural differences. So we can find some of the answer in Gilligan theory, which will be presented as well on our website. Here I would like to share with you an example of my student's answer. Efrat, she's a female. In my opinion, Heinz should not break into the pharmacy because it is not moral. We don't have the opportunity to know what was the reason why the druggist would not settle. I understand that Heinz's wife's life was in danger, but there is no legitimate for this type of crime in value society. Furthermore, what would be helpful if he, and she meant Heinz, was punished? In the end, the two of them were not at their best. He in prison and she recovery. And if he already break and steals the drug, I think Heinz should leave the money he collected at the pharmacy only for the morality. As you can see, Efrat, a female, she needs to understand the circumstances. And she expressed feeling of care for Heinz, his wife, and the druggist, which is the feeling, the emotion that she expressed for the three of them. The next example is of a male, Ariel. The husband acts properly, since saving life is more important to money. The rights of the druggist for his property are less important than the value of life. And a society in which money is above life is a sick society. So he focuses on universal human ethics, and according to the Kohlberg theory, he will be in stage 6, which is the highest stage according to Kohlberg theory. And now we can ask ourselves if there is really a universal theory to moral judgment. And if you, I assume you all know the history of this theory, that Kohlberg lay on his research on male only. So, can we really talk about a stage of morality? Can we do it? In addition to the internal and external students' inquiry, this experience invites our students, American, US students, and Israeli students to participate, to take part in action research, because they can use the data and be more involved and be a research of these kind of dilemmas and things like that. The second, okay, leave it like this. Okay. The second example that I would like to share with you, it's another experience of my working with students. Most of them were pre-service teachers. This example focused on the perception towards the others, and more specifically, woman body image. Different example. With online lesson, so we can do it also. It was online lesson that I work with my students on body image and eating disorder in adolescence. We asked our students to refer to 2 pictures, overweight woman and slim woman. The students were, thank you. The students were asked to answer open question. What do you think about each woman? And 3 closed questions. How old is she? And her family status, and professional characteristics. Each student individually referred to the picture and typed his answer at home in his free time. No pressure. Participants were 579 students, Jewish and Arab students, from University of Haifa and Oranim College, and the data analysis of the different groups show only one group difference: Arabs and Jewish people. Arab students, as opposed to Jewish respondents, perceived the overweight woman as married. Following this finding, analyses were carried out for the entire sample. No, it's okay. No. Okay. So I gathered the whole sample together because there was no much difference between the Arabs and the Jewish answer, and I found 4 differences. Attributes to overweight and slim women, differences across 4 dimensions. The background. The slim woman compared with the overweight woman was perceived as younger, of high school, of high social economic status, and not married. The personal attribute. The slim woman was perceived as goal-directed, emotional, stable, happy, calm, and satisfied about her life, though the overweight woman was perceived as lazy, neurotic, sad, and disconnected. Image variable. The slim woman compared with the overweight woman was perceived as scoring higher on body and self-image. And for the occupations, the slim woman was described as working in artistic and enterprising professions, as opposite to the overweight woman who was described as unemployed or working in conventional professions. Why do I bring it here? Above all, this exercise was an opportunity to our students to be exposed to people's tendency to draw conclusions about personal characteristics based on appearance only. Maybe we have 5 people that, or even less, who write me that they can't write anything about this woman because he doesn't know her. But I have 579 students who wrote what they wrote about those 2 pictures. This example reflect stereotype beliefs and prejudice. I would like to remind all of us that the 21st century is characterized by multiculturalism. Immigrants, different religions, and different cultures, and different colors, which reflect in our schools and our classes. Those changes address 2 main questions. What kind of child or person we want to grow in our society, and what kind of teacher we wish to have in our schools. We already know that teacher-students relationship have significant effect on students' emotional functionings, and behaviors. And we also know that teachers' educational program has significant effect on pre-service teachers' perceptions. Therefore, our global educational partnership can empower pre-service teachers training regarding to developing an ethical approach. It will be the seeds we plant for our future in changing perceptions towards the others and developing more tolerance toward others and less stereotypic beliefs and prejudice. So our main program goals are promoting pre-service teachers' moral development through social and emotional learning, reducing hostility and building compassion in school among children and adolescents, and bridging school and home environment. So I go straight to the curricula, which I divided to 3. Developing pre-service teacher mindfulness, and I hope we could promote the development of pre-service teachers' democracy and social justice value, and focusing on cultural context, how social and historical factors have influenced students' academic success and their perception of the purpose of schooling. The second part will be working about the classroom climate and how can we create positive classroom climate, developing community in which every student feels empowered and valid, and focusing on learning environment as goal stress. For example, we can follow the achievement goal theory, and we can talk about the mastery and performance goals in the classroom environment. And the third part will be the link between parents and teachers, and how can we work together, how can we make the partnership between teachers and parents. And the first step will be to develop a trust relationship between parents and teacher. When we're all talking about trust all the time. Moshe mentioned the trust. How can we trust the world, and how can we develop a trust relationship between a school and the parents? Although classroom and home are two different contexts, they have significant mutual effect. Therefore, teachers and parents should work together to identify their goals of moral education and convey the same message for the children. The question will be how or in what ways can we bridge a school and home environment. So back to our first question. How can we help teachers to prevent children and youth antisocial behavior? I will divide my answer to two. First, we have to empower teachers' self-awareness of their value, thought, beliefs, and behaviors. And then, okay, you can leave it here. And then focus on ways to promote positive classroom climate. And I'm talking about teacher-students relationship, peer relationship, and learning environment. So, what are the dynamics we envision in such a course? The above described global educational course will take part in the teaching training process. We will open a joint website. All the dialogues and the correspondence will be in English, and theory will be studied in local language, which will be easier for us in Hebrew. American and Israeli students will address their attitudes toward moral dilemmas, focus on moral dilemmas in the classroom, and share practical ways to manage moral dilemmas in the class from different cultural perspectives. Sharing thought, attitude, and experience to draw conclusion, I think it will be more interesting for our students, will raise their motivation and raise their curiosity to understand themselves and others around the world. It will create a new view for our students, enabling them to better understand similarity and differences in our community and in our culture. And furthermore, dealing with school's moral dilemma will expose our students to cultural characteristics and moral implications that are reflected in peer relations, teacher-student relations, family-school relations, social norms, and democracy idea. In addition, participants in this program will give our students the opportunity to take part in a global educational action research. And finally, to assess the effect of the course, I will recommend that the student will participate in a survey focuses on their attitude, motivation, and self-efficacy before and after the course.
Thank you very much.
For clarification.
Okay.
Not clear. But part of the presentation was in future language, and part of the presentation was in past language.
Okay.
So,
I brought things that I already did.
so you had a local pilot study
Okay.
at our name,
Right.
and now you suggest that we will take it to the
We'll all
global
be
arena,
to,
to
right.
do it in partnership with other institutions.
Yeah.
So I couldn't agree with you more. And so would John Dewey and you know many other important long-standing educational philosophers who see the classroom and who establish it this way as a community to address so many of the things we talked about this morning. But sadly, here in the United States, the mania that we have going right now about student vote scores and to you and to me. And into using it to create the classroom as a police state. It's just dreadful. They have these point systems, and you move from green to yellow to red, and if you get to red, you lose your time outside, and just all these so limited and so authoritative, and in the worst sense, authoritarian, authoritative, whichever one is the bad one, I always forget. But and everything we know about brain chemistry and the stress hormones that flow when a student goes from green to yellow, the stress hormone gets released, and now he's guaranteed to go to red and lose his playground time. And then he's guaranteed to be more, have more worse social behavior in the afternoon because he hasn't had his time outside. It's just a mess. And I just feel like my students always say, but I'm in the school and they're doing this point system, and I want to do this. And I just keep saying we have to persist and keep, because one of these days the schools are going to wake up and realize that not only does that not work, but it's the incredible lost opportunity to develop the kinds of things that we're doing. But it's really, it's just heartbreaking. Is that true? It's not true for you that have that shift to the importance of those test scores and the measure outcomes, and how that pressures teachers into doing such a limited practice? Is that not happening in your
We kill ourselves in surveys and quantitative studies.
And still, I think that in the academic, we have the opportunity at least to open them.
right, so that they can have it in their pocket when they get out there with those point systems.
Yeah, can I add also here from Walsh? Because my mind the whole time I was thinking, how could we do this? Because I feel the same way you do, Rebecca, that this is to me what it's all about. And we have so many hoops to go through in education that we're actually so behind on what I've first really studied in moral development. And, I mean, to me, the problems in education would, I think, decrease if we could go back to some of these time spent on these really critical issues. So I would love to see how we could integrate this into what we, play the game, what we have to do to meet all those requirements.
But things can change everything, no?
It's so sad. Even when we did the other course in inclusive education, it was hard to figure out how to do that so that students could still do what they had to do to meet the requirements, because these kinds of courses are so important. So I would love to figure this out. But I think I really applaud you on doing that early research and then taking this. And I think we could look at interdisciplinary courses and we could look at education courses. But I agree entirely with what Rebecca's saying. And we just have to. I just want to figure out how to do this. Still do what we have to do in the crazy world and get through the important stuff.
It was not a special course. I just did it in my course when I'm teaching psychology or educational psychology or adolescent. As you can see, one of the examples was part of a eating disorder lesson, and by that one I got the picture and all the results that I show you, and I showed the result to my students. They were shocked.
And I think it's part of our moral obligation as we prepare new teachers to give them something to continue to think about that's at a higher level than the clip system, the point system, and the green, yellow, red police state.
Yeah, sometimes they ask me, give me the recipe, how to work with the children in the class, and I think we're not supposed to sell a recipe.
We do. That's what I'm thinking. We have classroom management classes that Ray was asking. We still have that. We call it positive learning environments because we try to look at these issues. But I think between educational psychology, classroom management, I think it can be integrated very easily. To me, this is how you prevent the problems that occur. occur today, and in terms of we're becoming more multicultural just in our local areas, even than we've ever been before. My background's more with children with exceptionalities and trying to just 20, 30 years ago, trying to do that with inclusive programming, just get people to respect that children are different. And now we're at such a, we've finally had some success there, although we still have so much more to do, but to look at cultural differences.
So maybe the difference, the variation on the theme is, rather than a whole course, because it doesn't fit quite anywhere as you go multiculturally, maybe think of some learning modules. So if you break it down into some different modules, and so if you have, we're doing that in our Gen Ed program. It's like, can we develop equivalent of a 1-credit module, a 4-week module that can be put in a class? That I think would have a better chance of success, because then when you get with, John Grenak's world and e-learning experiences, it's rather than having a whole, we tend to think in courses, but it's thinking about learning experiences and outcomes and breaking them down into usable modules, and maybe 2 modules will fit. Like the whole mindfulness thing could fit in a number of different places, but it could be a unit of itself. The inter or an intrapersonal, you could break those down into different units. Like if you think about it, if you create a whole asynchronous course that would do all of those things, then you could slice it up into pieces and say, well, here's the 7 units, and you could use unit 1, because each unit is a self-contained mini lecture, mini experience. So it has the didactics, it has the experiential, it has the learning experience, it has the assessment outcomes of that particular component, that then becomes more of a library of things. So now you can look at I kind of always think of U-Tunes you could have a meta library of different things that you can pick for different occasions, and then you might be able to mix. So something Basile is doing, take this unit on literature and connect it with self-awareness. And now you've got 2 different modules that resonate, with using Levinas's. They resonate with each other and create attention, that not necessarily a linear course. So a lot of these things that we're doing, really, I think, to me, connect at different stages of the student's development. So if we talk about the interpersonal, the appreciation of the other, Pius is right, that's a very complicated, that's the top of a pyramid. That's enlightenment. That's what the Buddha and Jesus and Sufi, and they all have enlightenment. They see, but most of us are down in Kohlberg's pluses or minuses, our pain and pleasure. And most of us slog around in the lower areas of morality. So how do you get these little snippets? How to take something that you did from Gibran? I was one of those generations where Gibran was a hero. I didn't necessarily look at him as an Arab, or he was like a cult hero to lots of people. So how do you take something that Gibran did and maybe talk about body image? And how do you like yourself? Because a lot of kids today don't like themselves. A lot of teachers come to the university with all sorts of baggage that's intrapersonal, not even yet interpersonal. And that affects how they affect and relate to the others. Because if you don't like yourself, it's really